The Fellow ODE has been one of the most anticipated coffee products of the year. The same company that makes the famous Stag kettle is now dipping its toes into the brew grinder market. And today, we find out if their first attempt lives up to the high expectations. When the ODE was first announced, it could not have done a better job of seemingly checking every box prospective buyers were looking for. Large 64mm flat burrs, single dosing, quiet operation, PID controlled grinding speed, an auto stop sensor, and most importantly, a price tag far below any other grinder offering anywhere near the same specs. And when you first unpack the grinder, it certainly doesn't disappoint. The simple, modern, matte black appearance is beautiful, and of course it fits in perfectly when sat next to Fellow's range of other matte black products. If appearance is all that you're after, then you might as well stop looking now. But of course, appearance is not the only thing you're looking for. You came searching for build quality, workflow improvements, and performance. Before we could get there, however, I ran into a slight issue during the unboxing, where my unit had a very audible whine even while sitting idle. So I reached out to Fellow for a formal statement about this issue addressed to you, the prospective buyer. Here is their response. CX policy is to replace units with this issue. It's only occurring in a small number of units, and we are working to eliminate it from future production runs. We are constantly taking steps to improve our manufacturing processes, driving product issue rates down over time in all our products. So, you can rest assured that in the off chance you do receive a unit with this issue, you will be able to exchange it for a new one, and we can move forward with this review. Build quality throughout the machine is very solid, with almost every external surface being made from metal. The grinding hopper and lid are a notable exception to the stellar quality. The somewhat flimsy lid never actually snaps in, but instead just sits loosely over the hopper opening. For me, this really detracted from the otherwise bomb-proof construction. The bean hopper on the ODE was kept consciously minimal, as they intend for you to single dose, but it can hold up to 80 grams. The lid also conveniently shows their suggested grind settings for some typical brewing methods. Notice that this does not include espresso. The ODE is a brew grinder, not an espresso grinder, but within the range it does have, 31 grind steps provide plenty of adjustment resolution. The included dosing cup centers itself under the grinder outlet with a satisfying tug thanks to a built-in magnet in the base, and I really appreciate the internal pouring fins when in use. Like most of Fellow's products, it also includes some subtle dosing markings if you happen to not have a scale nearby. Once your beans are loaded in, a single button starts the grind and the whole machine jolts a little as the large 64mm burrs accelerate. This grinder is fast. It can grind 18 grams in just 5 seconds, making it easily one of the fastest grinders we've tested in this price range. Another thing I noticed was that this grinder does tend to make a bit of a mess, even with RDT. The way the grinds exit and the distance between the outlet and the dosing cup seems to let a fair number of grinds escape onto your countertop. Once all the beans are ground, the ODE intelligently senses and stops grinding. This automatic system was fairly reliable, but it did run for an extra 5 seconds or so on occasion. You can always shut it off manually either way. Moving on to retention, the ODE didn't fare quite as well as I expected. Despite having a grinds knocker, it really seemed that no matter how many times you knocked, there was always more grind stuck somewhere up in the mechanism. For brew methods such as pour over or drip, this isn't the end of the world, but based on their single dosing advertising, I was expecting a little better. So, the ODE looks good, grinds very quickly, makes a bit of a mess, and has reasonable grinder tension, but how does the coffee taste? The ODE very clearly produced a superior cup of coffee over cheaper options like the Breville Smart Grinder Pro, having noticeably more balanced flavor with less bitterness. Comparing to the niche, I'd be lying if I said I tasted a significant difference in the cupping and pour over tests that I performed. If pressured, I might say that the ODE has a slightly more heavy flavor profile, where the niche had a hint more clarity and lighter notes, but even that may just be my preconceptions about flat versus conical burr sets. The takeaway should be that within the same grind range, the ODE and the niche produce very comparable brews. Part of the story when it comes to taste comes down to grind uniformity. So we gave the grinds from both these grinders a shake in the Cruve sifter, and we found that the numbers lined up pretty well with the flavors we were experiencing. The niche and the Ode distribution lines fell almost perfectly on top of one another. Overall, the Ode is a quite compelling package at the price point it comes in at, with some small quirks that take some getting used to. It has strikingly unique and, in my opinion, good looks. It's lightning fast at grinding thanks to those 64mm burrs, and it makes a bit of a mess. But the coffee it produces is well worth it, and for that reason alone, I'm excited to see how Fellow improves with future versions of the product. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave us a like, and even consider subscribing if you want to see some more videos like this in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.